Okay, in this tutorial I want to show you how to make a little T Junction pipe, and so we're going to build this in Splines, just like following our other tutorials building in Splines. I want to build this to scale, so one of the first things I'm going to do is come over here to my utility panel, and then I'm going to click this measure button right here, and then I'm going to click new floater, and this will float out a little measuring palette here. Now this thing is kind of funky to grab a hold of. What you need to do is grab this left corner and pull it out a little bit, and then you can grab this and move it around. We need to make sure that we have our setup correctly. So we're going to be building to scale, so make sure that you have your world set to centimeters. We're doing feet with decimal inches. Okay, then the next thing we want to do is to set up our grid settings. So any one of our snaps that we have up here, okay, if you right click on them, then you'll have your snap settings. Now for what we're going to be doing right now, we want to snap to vertex and grid points. But if I go over here to my home grid, I want to change these grid spacings to 1 inch apiece. So we'll just change this to 1. This will be 0. Okay, so now our grids are 1 inch apiece. All right, so make sure you have your snap on. By the way, S on the keyboard turns your snap on and off. And we're going to create with spline. So we're going to go to spline here. We're just going to create a line. And we're going to create about a 2-inch pipe. So let's go ahead and create it, say 3 inches long. We're going to be doing a little junction. And so we want a spline here, and then we want another one here. Now we're building these two pieces as separate pieces, and then we're going to join them together. Okay, so we're going to go over and we're going to make these renderable. And we want to make these we're going to go for a 2-inch radius. Oops. Go for that 2-inch radius. And then, of course, we'll do the same here. And so there we go. And let's go ahead and put a material on these. Pull out my model material. And Shift J turns off the bounding box. Shift J. All right, so we have two objects here. And I'm just going to go ahead and change these to black wireframes. And what we're going to do now is we're going to Boolean these together as one. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one of these I pick. I can pick this one or that one. Doesn't matter. Then we'll go to our Create panel, Geometry, and we're going to switch to Compound Objects. Click Boolean. And then we're going to Boolean these together. Okay, now we want to go ahead and convert both of these to editable polys from splines to polys. So it's going to go convert to an editable poly. And so back to our Boolean. Now what we want to do is it defaults to union, which is what we want, which is basically saying we're going to glue these together. And then I go add my operand here, and then I click on it, and then it's going to join those together. So basically what it did was it sliced these along this edge so that it got rid of any of the geometry that's inside of it. Okay. So let's see. Let's go this way. Let's go ahead and add an edit poly modifier on this. And then we can go ahead and get rid of these caps. We don't need them now. Now we needed the caps when we were initially working on it because for a Boolean to work, it has to be a solid object. So when we made our splines, we wanted to leave the caps on them. All right, the next thing we need to do is we need to move the pivot point. We want the pivot point like right here on this line here. So what we want to do is go to Hierarchy, Effect Pivot Only. Now on your, we need to have our snap on, but you want to add, let's take grid points off, and we want to add pivot and vertex so we can snap the pivot to a vertex. And with this Effect Pivot Only, now I can grab this, and we're going to go, get my move, and then I'm going to move and snap it right to there. Then be sure to turn this off. People forget to turn this off sometimes, and then it'll still be in this because it doesn't automatically turn off. Okay, so now what we're going to do is to add a Symmetry Modifier in here. And it will need to be on the X-axis. And then you may or may not need to flip this according to whether your part shows up or not. So you may need to flip this. And then there we go. Okay, so what we want to do now is go ahead and add an Edit Poly Modifier back on top of this. And then what we want to do is to add some locking loops in this. All right, now I can pretty much tell this has already got some issues. Can you see this shading anomalies right here? That's telling me it's got some issues, but we'll deal with that. So if I go to Edge, I'm going to open up our ribbon up here, and we're going to want to be on Modeling, and I'm going to go Swift Loop. And then if I try to put a Swift Loop, I'm going to have a problem in here. It's not going to be working properly. And what it is that we've got, somehow it's created coincident vertices here. So you'll see we've got vertices on top of each other. So what we want to do is just weld them. So we want to be in our vertex. Control A will select all of them. Then just right click and click Weld, and that'll weld those. And now you'll see it's gotten rid of that issue that's in there. Okay, so now we can go back to Swift Loop, and what we need is, I'm not going to get them too tight. I don't want to get these too tight because I want this to round a little bit. So let's go to the front. So I want it to round quite a bit, so I don't want to get my Swift Loops too tight. I'm going to put it maybe here, and then I need one maybe here and here. These don't have to be put exactly the same, but for the most part, it's just got to be close. And so that'll give us some locking loops in there. So now we can go ahead and go in and put our subdivision, mesh smooth, open subdiv, whatever we want. And of course, we're going to want it at least 2 and maybe 3 iterations. And then that's going to create a nice pipe for us as a little junction. And of course, then you would go in and do the things that we've already shown in one of our other videos, where we're going to put our little junctions in here. So I can extrude this out. And let's go for maybe, we'll go 5. And then again, but this will need to be a negative. And then again, and then I'm going to bring this in a little bit. And then I'm just going to hold down the Shift key. I want my snap off. So I'm just hitting S and then pull it down in there. And then there's our little junction in there. Of course, it could be different sizes. You can make your adjustment, whatever visually works for you for the piece that you're building. And of course, then those would need locking loops in there, which we could put in with our crease set. Instead of having to use locking loops, simply using open sub D. We can go crease sets. And I'm not going to get too elaborate with my crease sets. We could do it that way. And then create a crease set and our subdivision, and then down here in our crease set we can adjust it to how tight we want it to be. Okay, that being one way. We'll make a copy here. just going to slide this over, and then with this one, we'll dump the crease sets. And so for here, we'll do more traditional. And then we can do our chamfer. And this needs to be on 1. And then set locking loops in there. Deselect, turn off. And then we can use a mesh smooth or turbo smooth, set to 3. And then that's our other option. So 2 options there. And so that's a real quick way to quickly be able to make a nice T junction that you can work with your pipes. Okay? Hopefully that helped you guys. Thank you very much.